Good afternoon. This is the Leon Trotsky Revolutionary Newsletter and Podcast. I'm Connor Exum, and I'm today with Jeff Thomas Black, author of Dashclosure and the Jeff Thomas Black Medium posts. He also has a career as an activist, and he's an economist from Duke University, trained. Good afternoon, Jeff.
Hey, Connor, how are you?
I'm good. So today I was thinking that you could explain a little more about your complaints about DoorDash. I get it confused with Grubhub all the time.
Sure. So the book that I am writing and releasing chapter by chapter on Substack is called Full Dashclosure: The Awakening from the Human Exploitation of the DoorDash Singularity. And the podcast is called the Full Dashclosure audiobook and podcast, not surprisingly. And so that's available on all podcast networks and also on Substack, where you can read Full Dashclosure. So I really appreciate you having me on. I've been enjoying sharing dialogue with you on Twitter and through messages. So it's fun to talk about this. So as far as why am I doing Full Dashclosure? What is the point of Full Dashclosure? It is about DoorDash and the gig economy, but DoorDash and the gig economy are really just harbingers of the total destruction of the American labor force. The gig economy is simply a naked scheme to take the last vestiges of labor power and disassociate them even from a job, and just make them pay by the minute gig application drones who have really no personal connection or human connection with a, quote, technology, end quote, company in any way. Now, you could even argue that that's the way the world's going and that's the way AI functions. But the fact is, the reason it's a singularity is they don't tell these laborers in the gig economy that are being fleeced by data science and AI that they're even playing in a game simulation against AI. So it's deceptive, it's coercive. They game the data. They literally give these people offers on their phone as, quote, independent contractors, end quote. But the problem is they don't disclose the facts of the contract. And so anyone would be able to see that a contract without disclosed facts is simply fraud, right? If I sell you a shiny new car and then drive away and you get in and turn on the key and there's no engine, yeah, that's not okay. The fact that I didn't tell you there wasn't an engine is fraud. And so these gig applications, whether it be the rideshare version or the last mile delivery version, which DoorDash has 60% of that United States and world market, that's the game that they play. They don't tell their laborers and they don't tell the consumers that they're being gamed individually by artificial intelligence that can make 60 million predictions per second about what they're going to do next. They know what you're going to do next better than you do because they're serving you in the information only on your little smartphone app in the order they want it, with the priority they want it, with the highlights they want, with the offers that they want. You know, this is like, you could be the best chess master in the world, and what's going to happen if you play the best AI computer here in 2023, okay, or 2023? You're going to lose, right? Because AI has solved chess. If you don't know, it's been solved as a game, and a human can't beat it now. And the same thing has happened, I believe, with Go.
Yeah, well, Go's still a little bit iffy. There was only one major victory in Go.
Okay, yeah, there's pretty good documentary on that leaves it still up in the air as well. It's also, I'm not familiar with this game, but there's also kind of a world strategy domination game in which you have to build relationships with other players to make alliances, and apparently AI is pretty dominant in that front of building trust and relationships in that world too. So our problem here, before we go down an AI rabbit hole, because it's a whole rabbit hole of its own, is that AI presents you a view of reality, but that doesn't make it reality, right? And so until people know the difference, they are very ripe for being abused either as consumers or heaven forbid as abused laborers or slaves of artificial intelligence. And then the final aspect that we have to realize, and especially with the theme of your show, is that artificial intelligence is being developed with funds of the most spurious investment firms in the world, like SoftBank, and the most spurious investors in the world, and
Peter Thiel,
Ubers and DoorDashes of the world investing in sub companies that then are customers of Uber and DoorDash. All the while they're running this scam and making the individual investors and founders billionaires that have all these options. The market value is going down and they're losing more money per order than ever before at DoorDash. So, this is a house of cards. It's a scam that can't last. And it's also patently deceptive. And then the final part I want to make about why does full Dashclosure matter to you if you don't personally work in the gig economy and nobody else does, is that this artificial intelligence and data science that DoorDash has developed is so powerful that any unscrupulous corporation or dictator could take it. And those are the only investors in this technology, in this world-class data science. Any unscrupulous dictator or corporate entity or entity of any kind could take it and run a labor force of an entire country or an entire corporation or any organization without informed consent of the people it's doing it to. And informed consent is the problem. If you want to come down to what's the difference between good AI and bad AI, and I'm not anti-AI totally, I'd say the good difference between good AI and bad AI is avoiding the singularity. Is informed consent there or not? Does the human being know that they're engaging with a computer, or are they being deceived in a simulation that's exploiting them? And that's actually, the data science term that they use for their goals and their algorithms. It's to exploit. Who's being exploited? What's the exploit? Who is the exploitee? It's us.
Right.
We are being exploited. It doesn't exploit itself. So that's kind of the probably not short introduction, but the problem here is it's a whole new view of the world. It's a whole new view of seeing our reality, because we look at our phone and we perceive it as something in the physical world that we understand and that we can comprehend, but we can't, because 15 restaurants and 15 drivers has over 1 trillion combinations in which it could be delivered. And any human being that thinks that they understand how DoorDash works and it's a real market and they're in some fair labor pool is deluding themselves. And unfortunately, that's what the system is built for, to collude and delude.
Okay. I didn't realize that AI was so prevalent in DoorDash's system of delivery. So basically, if we really want to be honest about it, delivering the goods is actually an incidental to the overall project of creating much better AI that will be able to create these patterns that we can use for delivery.
It is.
That will ultimately be taken over by other robots that then deliver more efficiently, because they don't need to take that 5-minute pee break in between their 30 seconds between each stop.
Right. And the singularity is something that's been predicted for quite a long time by people like Ray Kurzweil, who predicts it in the near future, by a gentleman who's got a great video out called Josh Harris. He's quite a famous guy that did a documentary called We Live in Public, who's got a great video on YouTube about the singularity. But And he was right on, by the way. He predicted in by 2024 we'd essentially be human chickens in a human chicken factory, with the cage still slightly open, but not for long. So the singularity has been predicted, but the upshot of full Dashclosure for everyone, whether you're sadly involved in the gig economy as a consumer, as a merchant, or as a laborer, is that the singularity is here. You're already being deceptively manipulated in all of those roles by Uber, by Lyft, by DoorDash, and they pollute markets with artificial supply and demand and subsidization, and also with fake brands that they call ghost restaurants. An example of what a ghost restaurant is if you've got a Denny's and you look on DoorDash and it says Mr. Beast Burger, and it tells you all about Mr. Beast Burger, and it gives you the Mr. Beast Burger menu. It's Denny's. And consumers, when they've been told the truth about that, don't like that. They want to know the restaurant that they're buying it from. They want to know the kitchen they're buying it from. And
Uber has been
from Denny's, they want to know it's from Denny's.
DoorDash, in my research before this, I found that DoorDash has had lots of complaints about these fake ghost restaurants that you're talking about that are just don't exist in the community they claim they do.
And it's just like DoorDash. It's an illusion. They're illusions.
And the other thing is that people really aren't aware so much of how much it costs on either end. That DoorDash is taking from both the client, the final end client, and the client that it hires them to be their delivery service.
Well, let me tell you about that. So I'll give you some great examples with real math. And this is great because I really haven't been able to describe this publicly before. Not that it's very technical, but it does involve numbers. So first of all, just a quick note: if somebody wants to know how bad a market pollution could be with somebody with a ghost restaurant, number one, it happens on Google too. You pull up Google, and it's going to now show up with other restaurants. And an example is in Portland, Oregon, a ghost kitchen had 75 brands in one house, in one building, many of them with identical menus and different brands. And so if you have a restaurant across the street and somebody goes to DoorDash and they have 75 restaurants and you're number 76, your percentage chances of now getting an order is completely compromised by a market that doesn't even exist. See how that market pollution now takes you.
You went from a 1 out of 2 chance to
a 1 in 2 to a 1 in 75. Those are different odds. And so DoorDash says they're supporting the local economy. Like a nuclear bomb, they're supporting the local economy to be vaporized.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was that prevalent that they were that bold to put 75 restaurants in the same physical location.
The only rule in gig apps, because they beat the legislators and regulators to the punch, and they also give them over $6 million a year in lobbying funds. The only rule is there are no rules. Because it's a virtual world, you can't regulate. I mean, we've seen this where they went to some local area and said, we're gonna apply a $5 tax on Ubers, and so Uber just adds a $5 FU fee to the local area, and nothing changes. You can't game a game. They'll just change the rules and beat whatever you just did. And so
that is one of the problems.
Aren't smart enough to take on this issue. They're way behind the curve on this.
So, as you're saying, but now they have these 75 restaurants that in theory exist at your competition's place because he was good enough to do a deal with them and say, look, I'll let you use my menu 75 times and you can just kick me back 5% extra on everyone that's, not actually here in the restaurant or whatever they do.
It's like the old Yellow Pages model, and the old Yellow Pages model of Dashclosure, there were all kinds of lawsuits because that was predatory. It's collusion. They go to every plumber and they go, if you're not on the first 2 pages, you ain't getting any business, buddy. And so they sell the first 2 pages to everybody with the same story that if they're not in the first 2 pages, they're not in business. This was in the days before the internet. And so I helped once a client as a consultant that had a small plumbing business and owed the local Yellow Pages over $200,000 a year. I mean, for his advertising dollars, they'd send him on trips to Hawaii. They'd bring him gifts. They'd take him out to lunch and $200 dinners. So they wine and dine all these small businesses, get them to sign up with huge promises, and of course, they end up having more debt than their business is worth. And so that's the game that DoorDash is playing too, where it's polluting the market, it's extortion by the fact that if the view of the world of a lot of consumers is only through DoorDash and you're a legitimate business, your odds of getting business and or any business that you get at all is now controlled by DoorDash, and they can manipulate offers, which they do. If they want you to choose a specific restaurant, if they want you to choose a specific time, if they're too busy and they don't want your business, they can just take all the offers off. This is what you call dynamic pricing. If you're a consumer and you're getting on to order food, you're going to get a different price than somebody else. And if you log off and then put back in the same order, you'll get a different price there too, because they will change the suggested tip amount based upon your prior orders and your prior views and everything else. So this dynamic pricing is just insidious as well.
But don't they get a little break on that because they can claim that the utilities have always had peak hours and off hours?
Well, so again,
but those were always fixed.
We're going back to the concept of a real market. DoorDash isn't a real market because in all hours, whether you would call them peak or whether you would call them the quietest hours, DoorDash meticulously controls both the supply and the demand for drivers in the market. So you could take the busiest time ever and they have a surplus of drivers to make it so that no drivers are busy. Restaurants can get busy, DoorDash can't get busy. And if DoorDash, if they're not getting a lot of orders, then they throttle back. They don't let people sign on. They have all kinds of ways to slow down the system. They can even just send drivers to restaurants that are further away systematically to make all of them take longer. So DoorDash, the problem with black box AI is that you're trusting an omnipotent God of a game world, and that omnipotent God was created with the corporate profit motive of a psychopath, right?
Sure. I'm not denying it, but I'm just saying, but isn't that their logic, though, is sort of that old model we saw, that natural, the natural monopoly that they can't help but control these things, and they're trying to use that as a buffer in the public view that, we're not really bad. We just have a natural monopoly because we're the best in the business.
Not really. I mean, all of their engineering and data science is really quite public to the people that look for it. As far as marketing, which or PR spin and lobbying, they make cases about their gig economy scheme to keep labor from having real jobs, real job security, real recourse, and legitimate pay. Right. So they can certainly do all of those things. But what the gig economy, really does is it gives them capacity and capital that's unlimited and free. Right. And so DoorDash doesn't really claim anything. In fact, they never even mention labor as a factor. Labor is, not to get deep into accounting, but labor is an expense for net income. It's not even on the 10K annual statement of the corporation. Really? DoorDash has no relationship whatsoever with its drivers. It is a technology company. Drivers never have and never can even communicate directly with the corporation. All support, whether it's payroll, whether it's everything else, everything is contracted out. So DoorDash is only an AI money-making scheme that's deceiving people with a simulated market that they can control in all ways. Now, what they can't control in all ways is that in the physical world, they're subsidizing a market that shouldn't really exist. In the history of humanity, or well, let's not go too far back. In the United States, in history, 99% of merchants and 85% of restaurants did not have delivery prior to the pandemic. And so the pandemic happened and people's view of the world changed, and people got habituated to new systems and a new option of earning money. And they didn't tell anybody. It just kind of happened. And the fact is, nobody knows. They don't talk about it scrupulously. So that's why the book is called The Full Dashclosure, is because the big secret is that none of this is organic in any way. It's all a rigged game, which means that it's essentially a just a corporate scheme. And the fact is that financially, because it's a subsidized market, DoorDash, just last week it came out that DoorDash is now losing, after 10 years, including the pandemic, more money per order than ever before. So in the last 10 years, today, DoorDash is now losing more money than per order than ever before. How long can you do that? Well, how big is the scam, right? They're now in 27 nations through an acquisition they made of Volt, WOLT, in Germany. They added 24 more countries, or 23 more countries with that. Sorry. So now they've got a lot of diversity to avoid catastrophe if people in the US figure out their scam, which they will, because my book's coming out and it's already out and the podcast is out and people are learning very quickly, and then the illusion goes away. So when people learn that scam, what are they going to do? I mean, scams end, right? I mean, scams are great and illusions are great until people know the truth, and then they're not magic anymore. And once the magic goes away, it's not compelling. So, I'll either throw you that or I'll explain to you what their fees are per order, so you see how crazy.
Well, we'll get to that. I was just going to say, but, I mean, the scam seems to be working pretty well for Uber. It's lost billions, almost 66 billion in the last 17 years. And there's no sign of stopping that.
No, in fact, they're all in great peril. Lyft is in terrible shape, worst of all of them.
But are they really in terrible shape? I mean,
oh yeah,
they always get new investors that come in at the last second to give them another spare 100 billion here to shore up, and we're sure it's going to work this time.
This is the business of SoftBank, which I would call global money laundering. So it's very interesting that startup schemes now that rely on gig apps and rely on AI technology are they are designed to exploit and to kind of replicate what the gig economy is doing, but none of them have figured out the economics. And so Uber, which maybe is the most solid business proposal of all of them because it's the most diverse, still can't get it together. DoorDash is losing money, but in the world of startups, if you don't have a plan that scales globally and is going to take billions in different rounds of financing and lose money, they think you're doing it wrong, right? The Amazon model is actually what they want. The DoorDash model is what they want. They want to see a lot of market investment, buying markets around the world in efforts to monopolize, because they don't want to compete with anybody, right? Oh, no. They want to buy markets and then they can jack up the price. Now, the problem is they still haven't been able to totally buy the market. And that's where this is heading. They want to degrade labor so much. They want to buy different markets in different regions. They want to collude with the governments to manipulate the people. There's kickbacks all over the place, because when I tell you the math, you'll see there's plenty of money to go around on this money.
There is.
There's plenty of money to go around from this grift. So diversity and risk is something they have to manage, because they know what they're doing. I mean, this is a whole new global grift, man. I mean, this is the latest thing. This is where the best and brightest data scientists from India and from the top universities all over the world have placed their labor and knowledge is into this human nuclear bomb of the gig economy.
So when I think about it, I think it's going to implode pretty soon. Not within the next 5 years, I would say.
Yeah,
I mean, it's going to be absolutely catastrophic, because they've intertwined themselves into almost every layer. I mean, you turn on your TV, and now your HR department is going to become pay.com.
Correct. Yep.
Right, which is just another one of these AI do-it-yourself applications for, your employees now go to fill out their own timesheets.
And guess what that means? So it's not just going to destroy the field of HR, which might actually, take it from an old corporate guy, might be one of the many fields that are actually worth destroying. I know some very nice HR people. I'm just going to say, I'm skeptical of many HR practices. A lot of them are in bed with the corporations way too deeply. So the fact is, part of this problem with the gig economy is that humans are just the fuel that's burned. Not only is there not any job security, there's no recourse. So if you're out depending on one of these applications and your asset burns out, your car burns down, that's on you. You're out of work. Now, what else could happen? Well, you could get sent someplace and you could end up waiting an hour unpaid, or waiting some time unpaid and getting lost. Who's that on? You. When the price of gas goes up to $6, who's that on? You. When somebody crashes into your car because it's one of the most dangerous jobs, one of the top 10 most dangerous jobs, who's that on? You. So this is like magic, right? If a corporation can figure out the most evil system in the entire universe in which to exploit human labor, they'd come up with the gig economy. So this is most definitely a house of cards, and it will come crumbling down. When and how, that kind of depends a lot on labor too, because people have become addicted, even though it's low paying or maybe a loss. People become addicted to the gamification, the coercion of the system, the fact that none of it makes sense, because it's a simulation in which they're not given a full set of data, so they don't even know how to calculate their expenses and risk. So the entire industry is built upon deception of what they're alleging are independent contractors, who, when you're playing AI, again, that's an illusion. You may perceive yourself as independent. You are not independent. And I'll give you a very clear example. You're going to the moon. So you can fight it. You can go 100 miles to the left, 400 to the right, zigzag back to Florida, and you're still going to end up on the moon. Doesn't matter what path you take, you're going to the moon. And that's how AI runs you. You can take what AI serves you, which is game data, not real data, not a real market. You can take that and perceive it to be an offer that you can take or refuse, depending upon what rules of their game you're playing. And they love to give rules where you're not allowed to refuse their money-losing contracts, because otherwise, how would they enslave you? So the humans can't win, right? This is a game that you will log into and you will lose every time, whether you're a consumer, whether you're a dasher, or heaven forbid, if you're one of these merchants that signs one of these onerous contracts with these criminals, because they're going to put you out of business. There's no profits left when you're done. And by the way, McDonald's is getting better rates than you. So any way you slice it, this is the rabbit hole of all business rabbit holes. There is no possible way to exploit humanity that these guys haven't thought of. Man, they got a lot of bright people there. We're figuring out how to use cutting edge data science and AI to take advantage of humanity. I'm not saying it's not brilliant. It's evil, but I'm not saying it's not freaking brilliant. I mean, these
I
are
can
the
understand
best
that.
brightest.
I can understand respecting how much effort they put into this one.
I like a lot of, I've watched a lot of, or probably all of their engineering blogs that are available, because I've been studying data science for this book, and specifically DoorDash's data science. And there's a great analogy. I think a lot of their employees, or I know a lot of their employees, actually buy the propaganda. They're brought in as visa holders from foreign nations to work for DoorDash, and this is a dream come true. They're making $200,000 a year and above as world-class data scientists. Life is good, so they're buying that program. I would liken them to the scientists that worked on the nuclear bombs. That they were scientists that were working on technology and human understanding and advancement, and it happened to be deployed in some ways. Many of them knew, but even if they knew, it was a time when they were working for their sovereign nation that was fighting for the good of the world, right? I mean, this was religion. They were fighting for their culture and their people, in the very least in their minds. And so I would liken these data scientists to the same thing. I don't think most of the people that are doing that work are evil. I think the executives and the marketing people and the business people and the investors and SoftBank, these bastards are real evil. The people doing the work are flat out freaking brilliant, because you name it, they've thought of it, right? And I'm not kidding. They think of everything. They analyze everything. They have a goal called first principles, where they try and improve 1% every day. And that's not by having a bigger smile. That's by data. They're going to beat you more than 1% better every day. Beat you because you're what they're here to exploit. This is the way that they're making money. And so AI itself isn't necessarily an evil force for the singularity that will endanger the future of humanity and the present of humanity. It just happens to be funded by people and in power and corporations that only have exploitation of people and resources as their motive. So it's a very, very, very dangerous system right now. And it's one of the great dangers, maybe the biggest danger of humanity, because once we make those jobs go away, once the idea of a job is that you're busy for an hour, but I'm going to figure out how to pay you for 19 minutes of it, because I only utilized you for 19 minutes, you're just human fuel. And by the way, because of my HR, if you break the rules of my AI, I can just disappear your account.
That's right.
And there's no recourse. I just you don't exist anymore.
Yeah, I mean that when we see what the so-called death sentence on the internet and social media applied to these new platforms, it means you just no longer are employable. It's the ultimate blackballing system.
It absolutely can be. And imagine this. So if you go to corporate data, 1 out of 5 Amazon employed delivery drivers had an injury accident in 2022. So let's apply those same statistics to DoorDash drivers. There are negative externalities here that are profound. People get injured terribly. People get in terrible car accidents. And these gig economy, these insurance companies don't pay it because if people don't disclose to their insurance company that they're using their car for business purposes, the insurance company can come to either
Doesn't have to
their
cover it.
or themselves after the wreck and go like, yeah, it's not valid. And don't think this doesn't happen all the time, because
Oh, it does.
this is the new scam. And by the way, when they kick you off the platform, they deactivate you because you broke the rules of their game world, not laws.
That's right.
The rules of their game world, which are completely and totally subjective. So they kick you off, they keep your money. That's in the contract you signed too. So there's one poor guy who broadcasts on YouTube as a content creator called Uber Lyft Phoenix. And they kicked him off for reporting a restaurant as closed, and in some way or another, the AI decided that he reported incorrectly, which was a violation. So they not only terminated that account, they kept his $1,700. And then when they gave him the tax statement this year for the 1099, they included that $1,700 in the pay. So yeah. You can say that's illegal, that's stealing. Okay, make them pay. I mean, this is the greatest.
You'd never be able to make them pay.
People do it. They just break the law before your very eyes, and you go, you can't do that. And they go, okay, give me the money, make me.
Yeah,
good luck, right? And by the way, you can't talk to anybody in DoorDash for recourse. You can talk to a contracted support person who probably also works in support for one of the other gig app companies and can't even remember which company they're working for. They're reading from a script and telling you that they respect you and they love you and they hope you have a nice day, because they're attempting to show you the love that DoorDash would like you to feel in order to be beholden to them. But the fact is, they have no power whatsoever. They have nothing they can do. And I have personally tried, because DoorDash incorrectly calculated my pay and kept a significant amount of my money for a significant period of time unreported. And it took me months to get that money back, and no matter how hard I tried, and I'm pretty tenacious on this kind of stuff, I never once was able to speak to somebody that actually worked for DoorDash, to my knowledge. That I don't believe that in terms of any customer support or labor support, I've seen no evidence that DoorDash even exists outside of the data science, AI, and marketing element. They have no data on you. They don't even know you. So it's crazy.
That's the fascinating thing, right? I mean, these are companies that are hiring you as an outside contractor.
They're not hiring you.
That's right. They're contracting. Right. Well, I mean, but that is sort of hiring you, isn't it? I mean,
no.
You and I signed a contract. They put out a call for extra employees. I mean, for extra people to fill a service. I mean, in a traditional sense, you would think of that as being hired by some kind of company.
You would, except here's the way it actually works. Right? Since you're an independent contractor, you have no relationship with the company in any way, shape, or form, and that's explicitly described to you in the agreement. So here's the real scenario. I'm driving around. I wait in the parking lot. First of all, it took me 7 minutes to get into town. That's all on me. I'm waiting in the parking lot for 20 minutes for my first order. That's free. Now I get an order, whoop-de-frickin-do. This is the time that DoorDash cares about. So I go from there to the local Burger King, pick up. Now they send me to the Burger King early because they want the food to be picked up hot and ready. They don't want me to be late. So they actually give different times to me in the restaurant in the game world, because in the game world, nothing is real. So they manipulate me to be there early. They manipulate the restaurant to produce the food late. And so now they're burning more of my time, but that's just part of the game. They just didn't tell me that they're doing it.
So you didn't get paid for that waiting period until you actually pick up that food and, whatever, sign in. Right. I've never used DoorDash.
Right. So the driver's not getting paid.
Okay.
It's just nothing. They gave me some bid, let's say, and so they're giving a lot of bids out right now for $2.50 to go 7 miles. $2.50. So I now know that for a fact I've got a guarantee of $2.50. That's very exciting for me. So I go to Burger King. I'm waiting because it's not a real time clock. Now I finally get the food. This is when DoorDash cares about me as a human being. I now actually am insured under the DoorDash system. From that point until I get to wherever I'm delivering this food to on this task contract.
And I'm guessing
so
that's the old 30 minutes or less.
That's the only time that DoorDash measures as valuable is that time when I am moving the food. The other time they couldn't give a rip about. In fact, free capacity is a great thing. So I deliver that food. Now I'm done. I am unemployed. DoorDash may never send me another order in the history of time, and they have no obligation to, right? I'm now unemployed. So I was employed for 19 minutes. Now, I have to drive back in town. That's on me. Now I'm waiting again. That's on me. And so we can rinse and repeat. So in this way, they just took 40 minutes of my time, my assets, my gas, my labor, and my risk, and they were able to pay me as a contractor for 19 minutes instead of an employee for 60. That's the difference between a job and a gig app labor. And then, of course, there's no recourse if they decide they never want to see me again. I had no relationship with them anyway, so it doesn't matter. They may or may not keep my money. They may or may not change the rules of the game. And by the way, remember, they know everything and they're not telling me. They know that if they do the math and I do the math, I'm going to lose money on this task, which makes it technically slavery. And it is. I've coined the term app slavery. So they know I'm going to lose money, but that's their game. They convince and coerce drivers in the game to lose money without knowing it, thereby enslaving them to AI and deceiving them. Now, do customers know? Do consumers know this? No, they don't. Do restaurants know this? Not to this extent. Even drivers don't know it. So this is the power of AI that is so far beyond the abuse of human labor and the abuse of human consciousness that's ever been possible before, that most humans have to sit down for a really long time and think about it before it can sink in that people can be moving around a physical world unconsciously taking tasks in a game world. It's like they're playing Pokemon. They're playing for points. It's a bait and switch. They're not calculating in money anymore. They're calculating in gold stars and acceptance and dings and whistles. And there's a very brilliant woman named who's a labor lawyer, one of the leading people in this space, named Vina Dubal. And Vina wrote an article called The Gamblification of Work. And I've used that analogy too. It turns every gig app worker into a gambler because they are specifically not given the data that they need to be able to know whether they're even making money or losing money, much less how much money they might be making. And so this is a human consciousness and human rights violation.
Oh, sure is.
And that's why the singularity as a phenomenon has been feared and talked about for so long, because in the singularity, it's based on something called the Turing test, Turing. That was a person. And the Turing test is you set up two blind screens, right? And behind one screen is your magical AI, and behind the other screen is a human being. And when I, as a human being, can't tell the difference between the two, and I don't know if I'm now talking to Chat GPT or a human being, that's the singularity. When I don't know that I'm in a game world, but I am only playing in a simulation that is being fed to me in a specific way to manipulate specific actions and to mentally suck me into a game so I'm not even conscious of what I'm doing. This is a consciousness hack. Then that's the DoorDash singularity. So if this sounds like a really bad, scary thing, it's because it's a really bad, scary thing.
Well, I agree, but I mean, I mean, the Turing test has always had the problem that they've never actually been able to get it to the point where one person behind the screen and the AI give the responses that make it so that you can't tell the difference. Here, you don't have to, because the game is designed to just feed you only the information that you need. So,
right. But you still can't tell the difference, right?
No, you can't tell the difference because
Okay.
you don't have all the information. If you had all the information, maybe you could.
Right. And
But
so
they keep that behind the screen so that you only get the choice information that will make you go from point A to point B at the fastest amount of time.
right. And so here's the other difference between a job and the gig economy. In a job, and it's wow, it's hard to even remember this, but in a job, the theory of a job is that the corporation and the individual employee have some type of common goals and objectives, and there's a common good that is being worked for. Yes, the corporation works for profit, but the employee, they always talk about how they love their employees and their community and everything else, right? This is an employee relationship is a human relationship. So the gig economy is the polar opposite, right? The gig economy is solely built on the fact that the less relationship and the less resources that the labor has, the better for the gig economy. So it's the corporations who have always had a profit incentive now have a diametrically opposed existence to labor. Their only task is to decrease pay infinitely towards zero. Right? It's designed to, it's so, and
that
again,
gets you addicted at the same time to the app
right,
that works it.
Well, and addiction is how you take people down. That's how you take it down to zero. It's the boiling the lobsters starting in cold water, right? We don't know we're boiling, but we end up working for not just slave wages, but as a slave, and we don't know it because we're not even conscious of the system that we're playing in. And so that's where we go back to this informed consent. If this same system existed, but everyone was warned when they log on that this is not a real market in the real world, and this is how it works, and this is the data that you're given, then those would, I would say, could potentially be valid contracts for all involved. The problem is there's no profit to be made there. That's a money-losing proposition in the physical world. So the gig economy is again totally contingent upon fraud. So these contracts, again, this is me selling you a car without an engine and driving away before you put the keys in. It is not a valid contract if I deceive you in the contract, right? That's counter to it. So this gig economy, again, was created for this abuse without announcing it to anybody. It just creeped up on us, never needed before until the pandemic. And now we don't remember before it existed because in this world, this gratuitous convenience of getting Sephora lipstick and a Starbucks latte delivered at home without moving my fat ass out of my chair is so alluring, right?
Yeah, it is. And it also poses another problem. When we have all of this convenience, people don't like to give it up. So they're not going to fight it.
No, this is the ultimate consumer addiction. And so DoorDash, again, they think that they have two theories. Number one, the people empowered know and don't care because they've always been cool with enslaving the people for profit.
Sure.
And they're cool with it now. And number two, the people that do this work, like me, are too stupid to ever log into their YouTube channel and figure out how their system actually works. And unfortunately, right, sooner or later, some enterprising individual is going to start researching their scam and actually tell the truth about it. Now, this has been a 3-year odyssey for me. 2 years of 5,521 deliveries.
Oh wow! So you took it on and really went all in for your research.
2 years, and then since that 2-year point, I have not dashed in over 7 months. Can't make myself do it now.
I have a question now. Did you ever make any profit anywhere along the line?
No, I kind of got fleeced. So I did it out of desperation, like everyone else. The pay was higher during the pandemic and even last year because there were drivers available. And right now they've got consumers habituated. They talk about this on their earnings call too, that their goal is habituation, because like other corporations, they want a few people that order frequently, not a whole bunch of people that order once a year, because the few people that order frequently, they manipulate the shit out of them. Right?
I mean,
I can manipulate you every day. I'll sell you 2 Cokes. Yeah, I'll sell you 4 Cokes. I'll sell you a 72 ouncer for the same price. And it's all profit.
The repeat customer is always the best.
The repeat, and here it's not repeat. Here it's gamification. Here it's addicted, intentionally addicted and gamed with fake content. And how gamed is it? They don't even fully disclose how their fees work to the customer. The customer only knows that this stuff is jacked up, and the customer doesn't even know if the price is fixed. If the price is higher than it would be in the shelf in the store, they don't know if it's higher than the price on the menu. They don't know if it's because nobody tells them. They don't know if it's a ghost kitchen that's actually an International House of Pancakes. So this thing, I mean, again, you got to give them credit. If you said, let's design a scam,
this would be the one I designed.
At least the world, DoorDash is the freaking best. And here's another problem. That 75 unit ghost kitchen I told you about in Portland, Oregon, the 2 founders, the first one was convicted of raping and imprisoning a 14-year-old girl, and his CFO is a disgraced ex-cop that went to prison for meth and abuse and going on the run to Florida before he was then put in prison. He's a guy named Seth Thayers. So you know, what are you gonna get, Connor, if you start a really good money-making financial scam? You're gonna get people that want to be in on the scam, and you're gonna get scammers that want to take the scam as far as the scam can go. And so you're gonna get human garbage like these 2 guys. You know, where your CEO and your CFO are a child rapist and a.
But you kind of, I mean, unfortunately, this system wants those people because those are the ones that are
clearly they were selected.
Yeah.
I mean, DoorDash knows how. One thing DoorDash knows how to do is contract out for a background check. They background checked me, and in fact, I had to sit around for about 7 weeks begging them and writing them letters to hire me, because during the pandemic, I was facing a whole bunch of charges for civil disobedience in Portland, Oregon. So my rap sheet looked pretty onerous, even though today, you know, all those charges were dropped, and today I've never been convicted of anything. They were all peaceful civil disobedience. Nevertheless, DoorDash does not hire people with criminal backgrounds, and they almost didn't hire me for being innocent till proven guilty, which I never was. So again, when you send your resume into the corporate world now, it doesn't get seen by a human, it gets seen by an AI. And now you're going to be human resources by AI that'll send you to digital counseling, and they won't disclose to you that you're not speaking to a real counselor. You're now speaking to Chat GPT, which, by the way, they actually did that. They actually did that. If you want to know, you can look at my Twitter, and there's a dialogue. I can't remember the name of I could look if you wanted me to, but I can't remember the name. But a company, an online company that does counseling, used Chat GPT to do an experiment on their patients without telling them. So when people thought that they were contacting a mental health supporter for interaction, one group was getting human and the other group was getting AI. And they didn't tell them. So this is back to
controlled test on them.
Unethical experimentation. This is back to the Stanford experiment and the Milgram experiment, things that you can't run anymore because they're psychologically damaging or physically damaging.
What was the test in Iowa where you turned up the voltage until you killed the guy?
That's the
Milton?
That's yes.
That was a great test.
Milgram. M-I-L-G-R-A. The Milgram experiment was the one where to describe to people, they put an actor in a room. And I think they introduced them first, so they saw who that was. And they put an actor in a room, and they gave somebody a dial, and they told them that with this dial from 0 to 100, that they would be applying an electric shock that was either, you know, mildly painful up to
Lethal.
essentially fatal, lethal on the person in this room, and this actor would act appropriately for small shocks and big shocks and death defying shocks of screaming. And based upon the coercion that they got and the suggestion and instructions they got, these people were coerced into delivering lethal voltages of theoretical electricity to the person in the room. Now, this is again highly unethical because these people are being forced to face this demon of their psyche, and then when they're done, they're told maybe they didn't really kill somebody. That's not cool, man. You just can't do that. And so because there are no rules in this new world to protect human beings, not just consumers, but to protect human consciousness and psyche, because there are now no rules, because legislators are either bought off or way behind, and regulators are either bought off or way behind.
Well, that's a big.
Just caught in the damn tech bubble and just hasn't thought about it.
Yeah, but didn't the EFF play a large part of that early on? The Electronic Frontier Foundation.
That is not my my area of expertise, so I don't know.
You don't remember how they were doing a lot of lobbying back in the 90s to make sure that they kept the government out of all of this, allowed these tech companies to do all kinds of things like monitor your emails, figure out how to put ads into your emails.
Oh, yes. So the internet, much depending on what you think, people think the internet was definitely built upon the porn industry. Well, it was also built upon the data exploitation industry. Right now, there's data lakes where all these companies pool their aggregated data together, and they know everything about us. They know everything. They know every keystroke we're going to make before we do it. That's how good their predictive capacity is. And even if they're not spying on you, all they have to do is apply your profile to the data lake, and your profile, you're already covered. They don't even need you. They don't need your
and that's
data.
That's another part of what
these
big apps are doing. I mean, that's really what they want. They want that data. Are you buying 5 times a week at your local restaurants? Because then they can sell that to their advertisers.
So yes, although now because of the scandals, there's always the scandals. Now because of the scandals, that's frowned upon. Hey, don't do it. But just because they're not selling it doesn't mean that they're not using it, right? And so technicalities really are no saving grace here in the world of AI, because again, there are no rules. Anything you can do in this new paradigm is great, but it's not in the world of gravity where there's a sun in the sky and you can stomp on the ground and there's a physical ground there. This is in a different world. And so as long as you're thinking about the physical world and perceiving it and sharing your perspective with others about the reality of what you're doing, they really own your soul, right? I mean, all we have is the present moment. The rest of it's just thinking. And if they own our present moment without us being aware of it, that's not just a bad thing. That's everything.
Yeah.
Right? That's just not a bad thing. That means you don't exist anymore. And they don't need a chip in your head to make sure you don't exist. They just have to erase your conscious thought. And that's what these apps do. And how do I know they do it? How do you know they do it? Because no human being would do all these economically irrational things that violate the laws of human behavior and economics without coercion, right? I mean, you can't create a market that doesn't exist without coercion and organized crime. So the gig economy is coercion and organized crime. Why isn't anybody saying it? Because there's too much fucking money involved. This is printing money. DoorDash's founders took away $2.8 billion each. They don't care if DoorDash never makes a profit. They individually made plenty of $2.8 million is a lot of money.
Isn't that another portion of the whole house of cards? Is that the traditional model is your company, you start your company, you build it up, you start showing a profit after a few years, and you get investors. Now the idea is, okay, forget the profit motion there. What we're going to do is we're just going to bump up our stock to ridiculous amounts, and we're just going to go through these fundraising cycles where we just unleash 1 million shares or 2 million shares, and you and I have 100,000 of them, and now they go from $140 to $600, and now we've just made $600 million or $6 billion, depending on the amount you have. I mean, that's how we have Tesla, that's how we have Amazon, that's how we have all these companies. They're not designed. I mean, even Bezos finally came out and said he doesn't care if Amazon dies after he leaves. He doesn't feel.
Well, they don't care if the world ends with them, right? Most of these people are so narcissistic that they're pretty cool with the world ending at the end of their lifetime. They really don't care. And in fact, but a lot of them are making that effort to live forever. And
yes,
they'll out survive us. And they very well may.
What is it? Peter Thiel has spent something like $100 million on research into living forever. There's that other billionaire that spent $2 million just in 1 year with operations.
And they've got their apocalypse bunkers in New Zealand and other places that are mansions underground. This is not conspiracy theory stuff. I mean, this is known information. And so they can go live on their super yacht in the ocean. Maybe they.
Well, that was Branson during
in their nuclear powered plane. I mean, these guys have the wealth of a nation at their personal disposal. Don't think that they won't buy the first nuclear powered plane and live in the air forever. They're cool with that. I mean, look, when you're this narcissistic, apparently the only thing you can think of is not personally dying. I guess for the man who has everything, what can you get? Immortality.
Well, it kind of reminds you of the ancient pharaohs in Egypt. I mean, I'm ready to see them build their own pyramid for immortality.
Oh, they will. They're doing it already. I mean, we only need to look around our world to find the pyramids of immortality. I lived in New York when Trump had the Taj Mahal in Atlantic City. That was a pyramid to immortality. Unfortunately, it didn't work. But it was there. So I found the little thing I was looking for. So what's another impact that humans aren't going to think of AI? And again, I'll step back. How fast did we leave DoorDash behind and now go to survival of the human species? It's a slippery slope, man, and we already slipped down the slope.
Sure.
It's post slip. So Chat GPT, right? We all know about it. It's been in the news. It's been the
Sam Altman.
I think it's like one of the fastest financed companies in the history of the
Isn't
internet.
that Sam Altman's company, the wonderful
Chat
guy?
GPT, I don't know the link between that and Sam Altman.
I just read an article in Forbes. He is part of it.
I certainly believe it.
And he has he was part of Y Combinator.
Yes, yeah. So is DoorDash.
So is DoorDash. And here's the beauty of it. He was the one who was quoted, I think this is around 2007, 2011. He was quoted as saying that he feels that it's very good that the economy has, people at the very top, but we have to keep the bottom. He's a big UBI fan because he doesn't want anybody too low, because then the pitchforks come out and then he can't run.
Yeah, there are billionaires who do a lot of personal PR for the fact that they're smart enough to figure out that pitchforks do still exist. But I want to go to this. So I have another. I told you about the risk of a dictator or a corporation just running a workforce of gigantic proportions with this same technology that DoorDash, the technology company, uses. Well, something like Chat GPT has some pretty large externalities too. Mm-hmm. In creating Chat GPT, they used Nigerian contract workers at less than $2 per hour to peruse the worst content on the internet of murders and child pornography and animals and killings and beheadings and everything else. They used Nigerian contractors for less than $2 an hour to view this highly traumatic content, to filter it so that ChatGPT could come back with snappy answers to stupid questions for you. So
it didn't turn itself into a psychopath, obviously.
Right. And so you could say, well, they my Nigerian friend had to watch, a guy fuck a goat so that Chat GPT does, works properly. That's not okay. That's not how we use humans in our quest for human advancement. And so if Chat GPT wants to claim human advancement and AI wants to claim human advancement as they're doing this, I would have a personal plea for some kind of Hippocratic oath where we don't leave bone piles in the wake of a new industry, because again, AI does not recognize humanity. AI recognizes data in and it puts data out, and you don't know how the black box works. You just know the data is going in and coming out. You don't know if the data is accurate. You don't know how it was calculated. You don't know how it was prioritized. You don't know if it can be trusted. You don't know if it's going to get you killed. You don't know anything. And so, well, I don't know about you, but there's not very many people or computer programs or anything else. There might be nothing in the world that I'm willing to submit my total consciousness and being to as an oracle of truth. And so be very afraid.
No, I am. I mean,
and be aware of the fact that it's not just about children manufacturing Nike shoes anymore. It's about human beings being used as fuel and being traumatized and ruined for development of data science and algorithms.
The worst part is that you're always going to have a guy like Steven Pinker tell you that it's improving because of something like this.
Yeah, well, the white people did exploit the black people. I guess that's a good thing. There's some wins there. We app colonized the third world, and so yeah, that's pretty cool. People like that. It sells.
That'll be his new book.
App colonization.
That'll be Steven Pinker's new thing. He'll come out, do the rounds, to tell everyone that Epstein wasn't so bad. And by the way, everyone's getting better. They got a cell phone and an app to go to work with.
So here's the singularity as imagined by some futurists like Josh Harris. So there won't be a job for you anymore. So your job is going to be to watch Steven Pinker. And then when everybody has the bathroom break, you go into the bathroom, use the bathroom, and snap a picture of yourself using Charmin toilet paper and put it on the chat log, and you get your little tokens, and you go back online watching Steven Pinker, and then it becomes shopping time for you, and you go out and you get your special Steven Pinker coupons, and for every Steven Pinker coupon, you now get food. And so you are now going to be used as gig labor in the future by this singularity. And because there's not going to be enough jobs for people. This is just like the phenomenon of self-check. We're all now gig workers. We do our own groceries, right? It's amazing they don't put the boxes in the parking lot and make us stock the shelves on the way in, because that would be a great plan. So now we're
find it yourself. Here's the warehouse.
Yeah, here's the warehouse, and that's the new vision for grocery. It's called Addies. They're opening 2,000 of them. That's new vision is a warehouse, an Amazon-like warehouse of food. They call it a dark grocery, and humans never go in. You go online and you order, and then you pull through the parking lane and they put them in your car. Or I'm sure you can, for gratuities, you can order it through DoorDash or something like that. So that's this new vision of a grocery store is no humans, and you don't pick your own fruit or your own can of beans. Well, you do, but you do it online, not physically. You do it in a simulation, and you can pick the perfect banana. You may or may not get a perfect banana, because the virtual banana ain't a real banana. It's a virtual banana.
And so looks good on the screen.
Yeah. So if you have this view of the world, How far can it go? It can go all the way.
Oh,
It
sure.
can take you to shopping time. It can then bring you home, and it can put you to sleep with Sominex. And you take a picture of the package of Sominex before you go to bed, and
More tokens.
you send it into the Steven Pinker hotline, and you get your credit for the Sominex. So
Don't we already have that?
We're just going to live taking pictures of ourselves going to the bathroom and using Sominex and eating Domino's pizza, because
But
that's the
don't we
only
already have
place
some of
that's
that
gonna be
right
left
now?
in town.
I mean, every time we check into a place,
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
that's
So
basically the
this
same
is where-
idea.
So this is where social credit is not a conspiracy theory anymore. I mean, this is a version of social credit.
Mm.
It isn't credit as in a credit card where they're loaning you money, but it's the social credit to get offers. It's the social credit to be allowed to DoorDash. Because I can lock you out of DoorDash, and you lost that social credit. Now you're out of the club. Now, if you're DoorDashing, you're probably in a pretty shitty club already. And when you get kicked out of the club that's in the sewer, I don't know where you go from there. Probably to a 10. So you know,
I mean, but
this is the bottom feeder of bottom feeders. This is
But
where you go. This is where you go when sharecropping is not enough exploitation.
okay, that's very true. But I mean, but getting back to the social credit concept, right? I mean, that can drive the whole thing. I mean, we talk about a whole new, it's like the 1950s with TV when June Cleaver would come out with a product and she'd product placement. Now it's a lifestyle marketing plan that you're doing now. Every time you have to be at the right place, have the right,
and they're gonna do everything possible to make sure that you choose a channel and stay there. Mm-hmm. Once they get you, they're going to want to make sure that you stay on their channel for their offers and don't leave. And so it's just, again, the parallel is very easy with the gig economy. They want to trap you. They want to trap you with offers. They want to trap you with investment in their platform, so that if you leave, you feel like you're losing something, even if you're not, even if you're gaining your freedom. That if you're leaving the system.
But then all your social credit.
By the way, you're in the Charmin toilet paper club with like 5 people that you chat with every day in the Charmin toilet paper club. And if you leave the Charmin toilet paper club, you can't chat with them anymore. You don't have their real information. So my friends are attached to my ass wiping habits.
But even more so, you might lose all your social credit and have to start from scratch all over again.
Oh yeah, we'll just erase your account. We'll erase your account, and you got to start over with a new avatar.
Right. I mean, but think about it.
It's going to be the ugly avatar too. It's not going to be the
because you have to get a
teenager that you're using as a 75-year-old man.
You have to work up to that.
You don't get to choose the fantasy avatar anymore.
But what I was getting at is, remember when Twitter was taken over by Elon Musk, right? And everyone who had the blue check mark went insane because they were going to be charged $12 or $20.
What about my exclusivity here?
Right, exactly.
I thought I had priority.
Right. It was all about the status they had built up in the community.
Absolutely. I mean, that was really stupid on his part because the key to controlling people is, of course, to control the group egos. The group ego is, and I talk about this in my book, the group ego. The group ego is actually more powerful than the individual ego. That's how you get entire nations to go do atrocities and horrible things, is you give them a group ego that says that's the thing to do. That's what's going to satisfy the needs of that ego. And so again, when you have that group ego, you're not conscious anymore. You are now. And when you're unconscious, by the way, unconscious is synonymous with insane. It doesn't mean that you're walking around doing that. It just means you don't know what you're doing anymore. And so,
more rational thought.
DoorDashing, you're probably pretty much insane because you're out there getting frustrated. You're spitting. You're sitting at stoplights, feeling pressure. Your heart's racing. Your anxiety's going. You're frustrated because somebody left you a crappy review in the app. And you did everything that you thought you were supposed to do, and the whole app's anonymous anyway. You have no recourse. You don't even know what order the crappy review was from. You just know that somebody said you did a shitty job, so now you feel like crap.
But
I mean,
worse yet, you get too many of those, and then you're off the app. And then
yeah,
it goes you-
that's pretty hard to do. Although there are many venues for sharing classist slurs against gig economy workers.
right.
It's an underclass that is a popular scapegoat now. And by the way, that underclass scapegoats you back. The underclass is encouraged to hate the people that consume their task. I did not say they're customers, because gig app
Has no
worker
covers.
has no customers. They're just on a contract for 19 minutes every hour. You don't know them, they don't know you. It's a little bit different in rideshare because you actually see a physical human being.
Yeah,
in
but
the world, it's anonymous.
but you always but you if you did you read the book After the Gig by Juliet Shore?
No,
She did a whole lot.
I looked up Julia Shore a while back because somebody told me about her, and she's got a lot of really interesting work. And I started listening to the podcast you did with her yesterday.
Yeah, we talk about it a lot. I mean, thank you for plugging that one. But After the Gig, she has this whole chapter where people that use it, right, tell how they don't want to know who they have. They don't want to see the person that does the task. They don't want to have to be nice to them. They don't want to even know they're there. They don't want to hear them, see them, know them. Everything anonymous and gone.
Nobody talks about the fact, forgetting actual double-blind medical studies and everything else. We won't get into a medical debate. But one of the reasons people loved the masking of the pandemic is that you walk around in the world as an anonymous person. Nobody's going to say hi to you. Nobody's going to bother you. You can be an antisocial introvert, and you've never had the better opportunity to go out in the world as just this invisible person, right? You can be, you whoever you are, you just cover up your face. Nobody can tell your expressions. You don't talk to anybody. Nobody can understand what you're saying because they can't see your lips move. I mean, talk about a recipe for social dysfunction. Let's destroy all that contact. And again, so if we don't have any grocery stores, we don't have any jobs, we're just in the butt wiping club on the internet. We never leave our house. We can order food without leaving our video game through DoorDash Gaming on the box. We can keep playing Call of Duty while we're ordering from Panera, and we can get our Panera sandwich and keep playing. It's like South Park. We can have our potty chair and we never have to get up. We can just go to the bathroom on demand. That's the vision of the world. And I'm going to say I'm a human rights and civil rights guy. If your circumstances and your choice are that you want to live in something akin to the metaverse, I'm not the one that's going to try and talk you out of it or stop you. Just have informed consent. Just say, hey, my personal circumstances is that I'm a quadriplegic with Gehrig syndrome, and this is my only chance for to use my rapid eye movements to experience your world. I'm going to say, hey, that's pretty cool for you. I'm really glad that you can be in that world and we can converse in this new way. Now, if you don't know it and you're just a person walking around and now your consciousness has been hacked and you're just being manipulated as a human pawn, I'm going to say that's really about the most evil thing I've ever imagined, probably worse. Besides, torture and murder. So there's a big difference between informed consent and being anti-AI. Am I anti-DoorDash or anti-gig economy? Yeah, because they don't make economic sense. Not because I think Tony Xu isn't tall enough. It's not. I don't have any personal feelings about the people or whatever, right? I mean, I think people that are organized criminal masterminds probably deserve justice, but that's not my issue. I'm not a criminal mastermind organized crime writer. So as humanity, it's our job to protect ourselves, right? And if you don't know this stuff, I guarantee you in this world, you're in jeopardy. If you don't know what's being captured about you and how you're being manipulated, then you're going to be exploited. And most of us don't have the resources to stand much more exploitation without going under.
No,
so
that's very true.
I work for the people, and I work for for peace and civil rights. I'm not interested in going under or seeing anyone else go under either.
No. But what about a public sphere? You were talking about, the metaverse. I mean, to me, that's the ultimate gig economy right there. That's the whole, that's a gig universe.
Look, the idea is that you would have a job in the gig economy, that you work the virtual cash register at Chick-fil-A and help people choose the right Chick-fil-A order in the metaverse. And if you do that, now, probably they're not going to need you to do that because AI can do that pretty well. But the idea is that we will have tasks in that kind of economy, and there will be real estate, and we will want to have location, and there will be markets, and there will be demand, and there will be liquidity.
I'm not really sure about that one either.
Side eye. I'm going to give you the side eye on liquidity.
I mean, right? that screams Bitcoin fiasco yet again.
Boy, it makes Bitcoin actually look pretty solid. It makes Bitcoin look really good.
I don't know. I don't think anything can make Bitcoin look good. Not to me. But I tend to be a kind of a Luddite.
I not only am I a very poor person because I don't do what I do for money, although I do what I do for money. It's just that nobody gives me any. So I have never, ever done that.
I've never seen a good argument for Bitcoin.
I've never bought any value of cryptocurrency. I've started reading about it and I'm really fascinated about it, but I've never spent a dime that I don't have on it.
To me,
and I can't see myself doing it.
To me, it's just a really creative mathematical problem.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great scam.
I mean, but there's no use for it. I mean, everything you can do with that, you can actually do with real currency a lot better. I mean, what does it solve? The trust issue? Well, they already solved that like 40 years ago with the credit card processing service.
So what can you do with mediums of exchange? You can pump and dump them.
Yeah, well, you can do.
You can collude. You can bait and switch. You can.
Well, those I know, but I'm just saying. But if a rational use of it, I just can't see one other than some kind of scam.
Right, because it's not a medium of exchange. It's designed to be a store of value, but a store of value that's not a medium of exchange and that's held by a few major people, it doesn't qualify. And so as an economist, I've never been able to figure out the fundamentals of that market, because for a medium of exchange to be valid, it has to be liquid and highly used and highly distributed. Wealth inequality now, and so wealth inequality is actually ruining the American dollar, which is called a medium of exchange. Yeah. So the dollar can be ruined too. People we're not on a gold standard here. This is fiat currency. This is just created by banks on the good faith of the United States of America for all that is worth. So it's the same thing. So all of these things are back to essentially pyramid schemes, which have been around as long as pyramids have. Is that the people that come in first and the people with the power and the influence make the rules, and they make the rules to benefit themselves, and the people that come in later, or the people that actually provide the labor and do the work, get fleeced. It's just the corporate. It's just the business model for oligarchs since the beginning of time. And with AI, it's just more dangerous now. It's just easier for them to implement. We are easier to control as the chickens in the human chicken factory. And
we have been, and
that's what we are.
I mean, it's really terrible to watch how effective AI is at promoting our choices. I mean, while other people are worried about it making art, counterfeit art, the real threat is all those little things it's sending into your email each day. Those ads.
This is the new Silicon Valley tech bubble. This is the new Silicon Valley tech scam. When the .coms were created without business models that were profitable and sustainable. this is not profitable and sustainable. But that was never the goal. The really funny part, when you go back in the research to the Y Combinator, when DoorDash started this, is they started it with the idea that delivery is only profitable in highly dense, specific areas like Manhattan and parts of Houston and Dallas and whatever. So it had to have specific demographics of income. Palo Alto is where they started it, okay? Which is one of the wealthiest places in America, one of the most expensive places to live in America.
It's got the money. It's got the money for it, but not the density.
Where they went, and they went to the famous startup lab class that helped these students become tech billionaire scammers. So these guys went to Y Combinator with a business plan that clearly showed that delivery only works in these specific environments, and that they developed this model so that they could exploit data in this market. Now, the pandemic changed everything. So it went from a business proposal that they, from the beginning, knew doesn't work in the suburbs and with high mileage and everything else. Well, unless some of that stuff's free. And so they figured out this model to take it to the suburbs with the gig economy, and they made something come into existence that's not economically viable. So they've always known that this opportunity doesn't add up. But what are they going to get when the market valuation came out, when they went public? I believe DoorDash came out at 174, if I remember correctly, and DoorDash now is trading somewhere in the 50s, somewhere near a historic low. And of course, the founders just noted that they're each going to sell between 2 and 2.2 million shares in different batches between now and 2024. So they'll get all those options. And they each got $2.8 billion from the public
sale,
public valuation and sale of the stock as it went to the market and went public. And again, so somebody lost a lot of money, right? Billions of dollars of investment dollars has now vaporized into somewhere by buying markets, colluding with national governments, subsidizing a business that doesn't exist, lobbying Washington, D.C. Why are they doing these things when the corporations and profits? Because corporations are ways to protect the wealth of individual human beings, the wealth and power, right? So corporations are kind of like AI. They're this not human thing, but it's got a goal, and the goal is to eat profit, to eat money, to bleed money for the people that want it, not you. And so it's again the same scam of corporations, but it's just turbocharged with AI to the point that now you don't even know they're doing it to you. And now they've habituated you to the point where even if you don't want to do it, the boss is ordering DoorDash for the next business meeting, and so you're gonna just check which sandwich you want, and you don't realize you're destroying the world while you're doing it, and screwing labor, and that's why this driver consumer class warfare is started by DoorDash. If they can get the people to hate each other and to have a rivalry, then who do people not look at? They don't look at DoorDash for being a non-employer that doesn't pay even a minimum of compensation for the labor they abuse.
Well, that's the good thing. I mean, the only way they can get away without hitting minimum wage is by being an independent contractor. They just tell you that you're not smart enough to figure out how to make enough deliveries in an hour to become, minimum wage workers. That's not our fault.
They sell the snake oil. They sell it to their own employees. They sell it to the market, and what they sell is they bait and switch. So a job. So now it's not a job. Now it's work, but it's work that is flexible. And so, what do you value, Connor? You value flexibility. I know you told me you valued flexibility, and I'm going to give you the most flexible work ever. And so they've convinced people that have either very little education and sophistication or very few options or very few hours to work and very little experience, that flexibility is a keystone of their opportunity to make money, and they don't have other opportunities. So then they get into this flexibility thing, but nobody takes a job so that they can put their ankles behind their ears. That doesn't make any. Flexibility does nothing for you. It does nothing for me. It might be good for your health. People do labor for money, and the day that people start doing labor for flexibility, that's called slavery. So they can sell all the flexibility they want. If they're asking people to work for something other than money, then again, I'm going to argue quite successfully that this is fraud. And then they're deceiving them along the way that what they're doing is going to be economically viable and positive to the community, but it's not. DoorDash is free riding. They're a classic economic free rider. They're getting everything from public assistance for their impoverished labor force, to roads, to restaurants, to the amount of environmental destruction that's caused by human ants driving zigzag errands all over the place for small dollar items in a last mile delivery market that's insane. That makes no economic sense whatsoever. So the only entity this makes economic sense to is the individual investors and the institutional investors that are taking massive amounts of money from this and laundering it either to themselves or into other schemes.
Sure. But let's get back to flexibility. I mean, is there really any flexibility in this? I mean, you showed on Twitter that you make $2.76 for a 7-mile drive, but that might have taken you 50 minutes to do that 7-mile delivery because you had to wait around in town to do it. So, I mean, your flexibility is what? Sitting in your car for 45 minutes before
exactly. And by the way, as many people have noted now, that flexibility is a lie, because the flexibility back in the day, remember, I started this in 2020 at the height of the pandemic when nobody left their house. That was a different market and a different world for doing this in. That's not the case anymore. People are now leaving their house.
But even then, you said you didn't really make a profit doing it.
No, not with the damage and the wear and tear and the gas and everything else. But gas prices were lower. I mean, I made enough money to survive. I ate and had a roof over my house, over my head. That's all. But I did that. So I'm not going to say it didn't help me survive, because it helped me survive.
Okay, but most people would say that that's not enough in a job, right? I mean,
right. Because in Oregon, right, if you return water and drink cans, they're 10 cents each. I can survive by picking up cans too. And I would say DoorDash and picking up cans for a living are similar, very similar activities, except you have more freedom picking up cans. I think it's probably a better, maybe a better life. So
yeah, you certainly don't have the extra fees put in.
Right. Yeah. No. You don't even have to. Income's not going to be reported. You're getting some sunshine. You don't have to be on a cell phone all day. You're not going to ruin your car. You're going to walk around and have good health, be conscious, sing a song, not be gaslighted by AI.
That's the one thing that's the one thing we didn't get to is the actual pricing. But we didn't quite hit that. So how does that actually work?
So just let's finish on the flexibility real fast, because I just want to make that point. The answer to your question is flexibility is meaningless, because DoorDash has now developed to the point where they have a massive surplus of drivers. And of course, it benefits them to have a free surplus of drivers sitting on the road waiting to do whatever the AI bids them to do. So they don't have the ability to have flexibility, because they may not be able to sign in and work when they want to anymore, because it's blanked out. There's too many drivers on the road. Again, DoorDash controls that, both the supply and the demand. You have to schedule ahead. And again, since many of them have based this job on flexibility, right? Their husband is home on Saturday and Sunday. So Saturday and Sunday, they can go out 3 hours each day and try and make a little bit of extra income to keep the family above the poverty line on Saturday and Sunday. Then Saturday and Sunday come and they can't sign on. So this is the ultimate not job. There's nothing they tell you is guaranteed. None of the metrics that they give you, they'll tell you that you're going to have priority if you're a good game player. But that priority has no metrics. You're going to go to heaven for doing all the good deeds today, Connor. I mean, maybe you will, maybe you won't. One thing is, I'm not going to provide you with proof. I will not give you, the amount of goodness you must provide or the level of goodness on a scale that you're going to provide. But you can take my word for it that Santa Claus sees you and knows that you've been good and knows when you're awake. But trusting AI is a black box AI is a fool's proposition, right?
I agree.
So let's talk about the money. So DoorDash's fees an app are insidious as hell. The point of a gig app, right, is it's not the internet. The point of the consumer end of an app is it's not the internet. This is an isolated game world, disaggregated from the real world, that's going to present a view of reality to you that it wants you to have. And so, you're no longer in Bloomington, Indiana. You're in Bloomington, Indiana in the game world. And in Bloomington, Indiana's game world, here are your selections and here are what you can do. So first of all, you don't know that you're getting dynamic pricing based upon the supply and demand in the market right now, how busy the drivers are, everything else. You're being constantly on. So you get on there and then say, I'm going to order $40 of food. So I order $40 of food. And I come to the screen and it says there's a 15% delivery fee on that. It calculates that up, and it says here's your local tax, and then it says here's your $2.99 fee that supports DoorDash's business. And so that's your delivery fee. So there's your 15% commission. There's the delivery fee of $2.99. You can pay a rush fee if they're busy and you want to spend another $3.99. That'll go to DoorDash too, not your driver, because it's not the driver that's busy, it's DoorDash is busy. You're not the driver's customer. So if you want to pay a rush fee, you're going to pay that to DoorDash, not to a driver. So now you're paying. So on 15%, right? That's $1.50 times 4, so that's $6. So now you're going to pay $6 plus $2.99, so that's $8.99. And now you're going to pay the tax. So there's another buck. So that's $10. You're going to pay $10 on that $40 order to get it. And on the last screen, the only thing standing between you and your food is a button that says tip your driver. Now, this is not a tip your driver like you've seen. First of all, your driver is anonymous. Mm-hmm. It's your stand-in is I kid you not, named Hiro, Hirou. And he's their description of him is he's a Japanese young man riding by the water, and he wants to be a pro bike racer, and he loves Dash.
You mean they used Japanese anime? They used the Japanese anime.
It's not anime. It's a real shot, but it should be anime. So if the driver wants to know who Jeff B is, because that's all they ever will know about my existence, is that I was identified as Jeff B. Jeffrey B, I think, was my name in the app. I know it was my name in the app. That's the only thing the driver knows about me. As far as they know, my avatar is a Japanese, aspiring Japanese pro bike racer. And so it gives me 3 options, 3 radio buttons, right? Those are radio button is a selectable button in an ad where you make the little. And now the radio buttons are going to change based upon the dynamic pricing it's providing me in my other habits. So it might be a percent of something. It's not going to tell you what that percent is of, but tip your driver X percent, and then it's going
of the whole, just the food price of the whole cost.
Right. It's of the food price only. So they add in all the fees, but once they take the percent, it goes back to only that food price. So when you look at the total order, it's not a percent of the total order; it's a percent of this fraction of the order. Okay. And so if they say 6%, it's going to be 4% of that total order by the time you do the math. Okay, but let's stick with this. So now you're the consumer, you're paying $10, and it says, would you like to tip your driver? And let's say instead of percent, this time it's going to give you dollar amounts. And so it says, would you like to tip your driver? This would be typical $3, $4, or $5 based upon this $40 order. Now, of course, most humans, I must be a pretty good tipper if it offers me $4 to tip my driver, because it's probably a good tip these days. So, and it knows, by the way, the AI knows precisely which of these I'm going to choose. And most likely it's the middle one, because that's why they offered me the middle one. They want to go like, here, we know you, Jeff. Like, you don't want to spend the $5. You're not that rich, but you're not a complete asshole. So you're going to choose the middle one. And you choose the middle one. Of course, you can go to Hero's picture in a different screen and enter your custom amount if you're really enterprising. You can guess what percentage of gig app consumers do that. It's not high.
Much, no.
So the last thing standing between you and your food is selecting a pre-service fee that allegedly is going to go to an anonymous driver who you're never going to see, who's going to drop this at your floor. You're now facing sticker shock because your $40 worth of food is now costing $50 already. So you go, holy shit, this is really crappy. All right, fine. I'm going to check the middle box, $4. So now you, consumer, are paying $54 for $40 of food. So we're going to tally that up for DoorDash. DoorDash doesn't care what they tip you. They want them to tip you as little as possible, because just like in any economics, the higher the price, the lower the demand. And so you're part of the price elasticity of demand for their total sale. And the less Dashers get in any form, whether it be in pay or in tips, the higher their demand for food, which is why they have Dash Pass and subscription, is so that consumers can pay less and less and less, get habituated. And now they've not only got a habituated person, but they've got a way to depress the delivery fees even more and up the demand, which is how they make money. So now let's jump over to the business side. On the business side, it's insane. They've got 3 different plans, which harken back to the old Yellow Pages days. 15%, 25%, and 30% commission of your total gross sale, tax not included, and another 6% service fee. So you're going to pay. So let's choose the middle one, just to be fair. We want to be fair to DoorDash. Let's choose the middle one and say 25%.
Which is probably the most common.
Right. What profit do you think your average local restaurant's going to make if they give a 25% commission on all food sales? Take a go. Guess.
Probably about 5% or less.
They're in the negative, undoubtedly. They're losing money.
I mean, most of them, I used to do a lot in the restaurant industry. They were only making maybe 20% total.
Right. And it's very funny if you jump back to the Y Combinator days. One of the first interviews that Tony Hsu, God, I've seen that guy a million times now in my research. One of the interviews is really hilarious because it's this guy that's very friendly to him. And this is going to be in my book. I'll include the video. He's very friendly to him, and he says, "So how does this work? So you did this in Palo Alto, and you actually delivered pizzas for Domino's." It makes him sound really earthy and like a man of the people, that he actually did a few deliveries to figure out how to scam people. So he says, "So how does this work? I mean, you can't be taking more than 3, 4, 5% of the, because the restaurants wouldn't make any money." And you see Tony Hsu's young eyes get big, because this guy just basically exposed him and said the restaurant industry can't possibly survive if you're taking more than 3, 4, 5%. And so Tony Hsu responds back classically. He says, "Well, Grubhub takes 25%. That was his answer, is that Grubhub does it. He didn't answer whether they're going to be profitable or not. His answer was Grubhub does it. So that tells you, I mean, a lot of this I laugh at. I either scream out loud or I laugh out loud while I'm watching this stuff, because it's high comedy, right? The guy just undershot by 20% the way this guy destroys the economy, and now he's got to excuse himself. So let's go back to the math. 25% plus 6%. So out of $40, 25% is pretty easy. That's another $10. Okay, now we're at $50. Now we're going to take another 6%. So that's 6 times 4. That's another $240. Okay, so now we've got $12.40. right?
Out of that $40.
Out of that $40 so it actually comes out to being more than 25%, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
yeah, well, that service fee puts them up to almost 30%,
right.
over 30%.
So then we take the amount that the consumer paid. Now the consumer, if we go back, was paying 15%. So the consumer was paying $6 plus $2.99 because they're not on the Dash Pass program. They're just a regular consumer, and then they're also going to pay $1 in tax. Now, of course, that doesn't go to DoorDash, and since they're nice, they're going to pay $4 in a tip. That doesn't go to DoorDash either. That goes straight to the driver. So the customer is going to pay, again, they're going to pay that $14 for, so they're going to be paying $54 for $40 of food. And how much of that is going to go to DoorDash? $9 is going to go to DoorDash. So $12.40 from the restaurant plus $9, that's $21.40 that DoorDash is taking away from a $40 economic transaction. Now that is an intermediary. If you can take a $40 transaction and create $21.40 of revenue, you are a financial machination genius, number one. Number two, I can't figure out, I mean, at that rate, you should almost already be able to make money in this subsidized market, because that's literally highway robbery. Now, of course, the problem is that what do they, and I have this documented in the book as well, and in my Twitter, McDonald's doesn't pay 25%. And a lot of their business is from McDonald's. So they're not making this scam on everybody. They're making this scam on the people that can least afford it, the individual smaller businesses that can't negotiate their own deals. McDonald's pays 11.9%.
But still, think about that. But think about 11.9% on top of your average McDonald's order is probably only $27.
Right. So 11.9% is a lot less. It's still a gigantic scam for terrible food, in my opinion.
I agree.
But just from a market standpoint, is this now a fair organic market if one competitor pays one price? So they pay lower for supplies, they pay lower for labor, and they pay lower for delivery than their competitors. So are you competing? Are you going to be able to stay in business when they put another McDonald's down the street? You're not. You can't. You can't even. I grew up with my dad as a small businessman in the industrial hardware space, and then Home Base and Home Depot came out, and Home Base and Home Depot could sell professional standard equipment for less than a small business could purchase it for wholesale.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about the end of small business? That was the end of small business. Now there's still Ace Hardware, a national chain. There's a few independent hardware places that specialize in service and all the things and advice and things you're not going to get, but there's not very many. And there certainly isn't a number that there used to be. So DoorDash, again, in their PR talks about supporting local business, when in reality, they're destroying our economy, not just our local business. And the fact that they could take a $40 transaction and make it a $60 and take $21.40 out of it is completely and totally insane. And I would say prima facie illegal.
I would too. But leaving the restaurant with a grand total of $18.60.
Well, okay, so no, not all of that came to the rest. The restaurant only actually took out $12.40. Okay. So the restaurant only paid 30%, but they're not making profit. And I've talked to the managers, and they said, here's the upside. The upside is it keeps my staff busy and employed for the busy times, so that when I actually do get people in the door, I've got capacity. Do I make profit off it? No, I hate it. And DoorDash is. I mean, restaurants hate DoorDash. Look online, look at the stories, talk to restaurants. They all hate them. But
I mean, the fact that they named the place DoorDash is the first.
Just like the Yellow Pages, they were sold the fact during a time of national panic and crisis that this was a necessary part of doing business, even though it isn't. Even though 99% of merchants historically survive without delivery, they convinced these folks in a time of crisis that everybody needed to sign contracts. And they did the same thing with consumers, right? Consumers, 85% of the food they got, first of all, a lot of it doesn't travel very well. And consumers constantly complain about the quality of the food, the temperature of the food, the condition of the food, and everything else. And restaurateurs are frustrated and spend a lot of money on packaging and wasting a lot of environmental resources, because if delivering food to people's houses was great business, people would have been doing it prior to DoorDash. DoorDash did not invent anything about food delivery or innovate anything about food delivery. It's a financial innovation in labor laundering and slavery. So these restaurants are now roped into contracts that I believe, and it will argue, are illegal by deception. And I believe the independent contractors also illegal.
The FedEx got busted for
by
that.
deception. And so the amazing part is that nobody has ever had to answer these questions. DoorDash has never made a truthful public statement about what their Dashers earn, about how they run their business, about how their AI works, about what's a real restaurant, what's not, what's a ghost kitchen, what's not. All of this is done at the expense, at the exploitation of humanity. So when people learn this, anybody that learns this should be horrified on every level, for labor, for consumers, for independent business people. This is pure poison for humanity.
It is.
So I wish it was just a DoorDash problem. I wish I had just an axe to grind with Tony Hsiu, because he's a terrible guy.
But you got to admit, there's a certain irony in naming your company DoorDash and being a delivery, because dash and dine. I mean, it literally is the ultimate dash and dine.
Well, how about the fact that like the technical scientific term for what they're doing is exploitation. Like the technical term for what they're doing with AI is called exploit. It's not just whether it's humans or not. When you're using AI, the goal for efficiency is to exploit the data to the greatest extent. And in the gig economy, what are humans? We're data. It's all we are.
Just data points.
You're a Japanese pro bike racer. You're one or the other. You're either data or you're hero you, and otherwise you're anonymous. And let's go back to that tip scenario. So they incentivize and the media pushes the narrative about dashers or gig app workers and customers hating each other, which of course they have absolutely facilitated this, but it is not a tip, because it's anonymous, it's before the service is provided, it's prompted, it's not with consent, it's gamed, it's not part of an organic market. It fails on every measure as a legitimate tip. And if you go to the research on tipping, customers resent, even in like a haircut. If they tip beforehand, they've done psychological studies. They ask them to tip for a haircut, they're less satisfied. If they ask them to tip before another service, they have less repeat customers, less positive feedback. So tipping, even in the real world, where you're looking somebody in the face and they can smile at you and build a relationship, and a tip is actually a physical tip, tipping before service is a worst practice. It's how you would do it if you wanted to fail. So again, when DoorDash sets up this rivalry and tells DoorDashers that they're actually getting screwed because customers are selfish and not tipping, and they take the focus off their own labor scam, the reality is, if you wanted to set up a tipping system that would be least
popular,
the least effective to pay workers, this is how you would set it up. You would set up exactly like this to have the minimal amount of tips. And of course, any driver on the road that is getting served offers from DoorDash is getting served offers specifically for them that that either has a tip or doesn't, and DoorDash knows that in full and is giving that to them. So if they want to frustrate you and piss you off, and you don't take orders without tips, they can just harass you and give you 10 orders that you're gonna refuse, just to teach you a lesson. They
but also
slow you down. They could park your ass in a parking lot and just leave you there for an hour with nothing happening. Happens all the time. So,
but what I was getting at is that if you don't take those tips, you then get, because of the algorithm, you get marked as, problematic or whatever they particularly do, and then you get pushed down.
Allegedly.
Yeah,
So that's
allegedly.
the allegation, but in reality, we don't know, because what's priority, right? If I have, I'm gonna have 3 objects here, right? 1, 2, 3.
They're going to say that distance is the priority, and it's how close you are to the
Yeah,
proximity of it.
we can't go by what they say. Okay, so we got 3 objects in the mirror for me to be confused about. Okay, and so we're going to go from this one's the hottest, this one's less hot, this one's the coolest, right?
Mhm.
Okay, now which one is the coolest? This one. Which one is the least hot? Well, this one. Which one's the least cool? This one. So is it the most hot or is it the least cool? Right. So there is this, if the scale changes, then it's meaningless. And by the way, they don't even give you a scale to change, right? I mean, this is, you're going to get rewards in heaven. You know, if
Well, I
you
know.
want 29 virgins instead of 27 virgins in heaven, I'm going to offer them to you. It's good for me. I mean, you talk about an elegant negotiable that costs me nothing and has value to you. I'll give you 72 virgins in heaven, buddy. As many as you want, unlimited, right?
Well, what I was just getting at is that it's even just the fear of being moved down the algorithm that's enough to keep you always moving after it.
Fear. How about fear of losing losing the gig altogether, about them kicking you off, about losing your shift, about losing your pay, about a customer getting upset with you for no reason, about a problem happening and having no recourse. Now, here's another example. I talk with a lot of drivers, or correspond with a lot of drivers, to understand their thoughts, because this is all about consciousness. And last night, I was chatting with a driver and trying to explain this to them about why it's not a valid system, and they struggle so hard, because in the world that they know, there are always signals, right? Humans, from the time we're born, are created to seek the signals that we're receiving from the world, and then make assumptions and move forward on limited information as best we can. That's how we function as humans. And so when AI is exploiting that, the exploitation opportunities are literally unlimited. To coerce people to do things that are not in their best interest, with no standards. And you can move the bar, right? You can create standards that aren't in the real world but are in the game, and fear of having consequences in the game is much more powerful than actual consequences, just like intermittent rewards are much more powerful than consistent rewards. If I want to hook you and addict you and get you to do stupid shit that's not in your best interest, I'm going to give you a cookie every 4th time you do it, and you're going to come back all 4 times with repeat. If I give you one every time, you're going to get lazy, and you're just going to expect a cookie every time. And if I don't give you a cookie, you're not going to move. Now, intermittent reinforcement, all you got to do is give you a 1 out of 4 cookies, and I actually get you to do my behavior more effectively. And then I cut it down. I give you 80% of a cookie, and you'll still do it. And I can give you 70% of a cookie, and you're still going to do it, because I got you. And so every human frailty is a target of AI.
That is true. I mean, and they've been modeling that for decades with just the applications that they use to get you hooked on those stupid games that you play on your phone.
That's right. Freemium games. There was a great South Park episode on that. Freemium games, games that started free, get you engaged, get you to a certain point where you can't progress further without paying some money. That was very effective. Very effective, and they got kids to spend money without adults' consent. They got everything.
Well, that's also how they kind of did DoorDash, right? I mean, you started off early on in DoorDash with higher rates, and then they start peeling that all the way back, and now you're actually spending more money to go deliver their stuff than you're making.
And I have a theory for you, and I've written this as well, which is that they will get to a point of their evolution where they will charge labor for access to their work application. And people will pay. And people will pay.
I've thought about that too.
Because they can do anything they want. Twitter's gonna start charging everybody, it seems. Right? So this is now, I mean, Twitter charging everybody is way more legitimate than DoorDash charging, but at least Twitter is a platform, that people openly know what it is. Again, DoorDash is gambling, and it's a slavery trap. Because here's the thing about people say, well, do something else. Anybody that's done physical, hard, demanding labor knows that if you're working your ass off, grinding 50 hours a week, you don't have time to look for another job. You don't have the energy to look for a job. You don't have the energy to stand up. And you're getting injured on the job because you've had no training, no support, you have no OSHA, you have no insurance. So the externalities on the system are going to be pretty high. So you are stepping into a system where it's going to destroy you. To answer your question, when I got done, I totaled up the repairs and wear and tear on my car, new tires. I did about 40,000 miles in total.
Wow.
On my car, over 5,521 deliveries. And I did probably between damage and maintenance about $9,000 of damage. And I made a total gross of $48,000, which was an average, if you average the weeks that I worked, about $600 a week. So if you go back and do this math, I mean, I know for a fact that I had food to eat and I had a roof over my head. Did I have any money when I was done? And my water pump and timing chain blew on a 100-degree day while I was dashing. That was I think that was one of my last dashes right there. And It cost $2,000 after 40,000 miles. And I didn't have the money to pay for it. And by the way, right now, they couldn't even, there's such a demand in Bloomington, Indiana for mechanics. They couldn't do it for 4 weeks. So in 4 weeks, I went from income to zero with a $2,000 bill. So this is how people in poverty stay in poverty.
Yes, it is.
No matter if you think you get your nose above water and then the next thing. And so the gig economy is a trap. When you're in it, yeah, you might keep a roof over your head. You might keep food. You might keep some dignity because you're not stuck at the house just being depressed all day, turning in resumes that no human ever reads. But it's not good.
No.
As I said when I started it, it's the only thing that's not worse than sitting at home waiting for job offers that aren't coming. It was less worse than that.
Wow.
So there you go. I mean, that's an upside.
I like how you're on the bright side of that,
You got, hey, I mean, people say you did it 5,521 times and now you're running around talking bad about it. I knew I was being exploited from day one. I didn't know all this AI stuff that I've learned and data science stuff that I've learned since then.
Yeah.
I always knew I was being exploited, but I was being exploited and at least getting an income that was meeting my needs at the time, if not long term.
But you're always getting exploited.
But it kept me above water in the pandemic when nobody was even leaving the house. So
I agree.
I
mean, but it was a necessary evil as well.
Yeah. But a necessary evil, just like voting, doesn't mean it should exist. It just means it's evil and it still exists. There is no system in which DoorDash's existence should continue. It's human. It's toxic. It's toxic AI to humanity. Period.
Oh, I think most AI is toxic to humanity.
Be very afraid.
I mean, because everyone who wants to employ it is looking to manipulate and exploit humans at the end. I mean, we want to sell, what is it? CNET has been using AI to a really crappy version of it to redo articles so that they don't have to pay another employee to go through and rewrite them, to game Google's algorithm, which is going to put them at the top of the list when you do tech, tech articles you might want to look at. So I think that's just a whole circular kind of path towards our own destruction, really. This,
It is indeed.
you know, we
So
we
so the gig economy is the ultimate expression of corporate insanity that can be perpetrated on humanity. And we have to figure that out very, very, very quickly, or it will be too late. Again, once these things are created, then people believe that the status quo bias should rule and it should stay created. Well, you can't put DoorDash out of business because DoorDash exists. Well, sure you can. I mean, look, if everybody was walking around with a personal nuke and we wanted to put the nuke company out of business, I think that it would be rational to put the nuke company out of business, even if everyone had their personal nukes. So, so, so that's going to be something that's very, very hard to do in a world where the people with money and power have the money and power. So can it happen in this system? Probably
no.
not. But the system and it isn't sustainable either. So it's going to crash.
That's
The
probably the only
problem
good
is when it
thing.
crashes without planning, then it's going to be a lot more impactful and damaging. And humanity cannot function with this dichotomy of power and wealth and social class. So we have to face this, because either way it's going to come get us. Because right now in the world of AI, we're not humans, we're natural resources, and they will expend us as a commodity. We're not humans anymore. It's not a job. You're not a human. You're an expendable resource. If you want to be an expendable resource for AI, I'm not going to stop you, but you better sign the real consent form that says, I'm now checking my body and mind at the door, like the show on Apple TV, which is so great, where they check their human consciousness at the door of the corporation when they go in the elevator each day, and then when they leave, they get their human consciousness back and they get their personality back. It's a fabulous, fabulous show.
I've never seen that one.
Yeah, it's called what's it called? Oh, you talk and I'll look.
Well, what I was thinking is that in my area, we don't have DoorDash because I'm in a very rural area of New York. Our big thing is Airbnb, which also has a lot of the same problems. I mean, you've got an AI that pushes you towards certain locations. You put in your thing, your recommendations become, the way of moving up the ladder and getting your property on the front page of everything, because that's always the most thing, because people only usually search about 3 or 4 pages in at most, and if you can't keep yourself at that pinnacle,
right back to the yellow pages. If you're not on the first page and people don't have to scroll, you're not in business, buddy. You better pay.
As what's his name says, Ricky Bobby says, if you're not first, you're last.
Exactly. If you're not first, and that is absolutely the theory of Google search, right? And if DoorDash, if you put in restaurants and DoorDash comes up loaded, the entire first page is Red Robin DoorDash, Burger King DoorDash, because they take those brands and they can actually put DoorDash ahead of the store itself.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It happens all the time. So the show where you check your conscience in the door is called Severance. And it's had 1 season so far, and it's fabulous. It's called Severance. So you go in the elevator and you show up at this evil corporation. You're a clean slate. You don't know who you are. You meet your coworkers. You do a function that you don't understand. You get back in the elevator. When you walk out the door, you got your life back, and you can go home to your wife and kids that you don't know even exist when you're in the inside world. It's a great show. So yeah, this is not sci-fi.
No.
This is not conspiracy theory. Every single part of my book and research has evidence and data science and facts behind it. It doesn't make it any less horrifying and unbelievable.
I think it's
the
more
fact that this was
horrifying.
created under our noses. It only goes to show the fact that the people being exploited are the people classically exploited by predatory capitalism. It's the poorest, most vulnerable laborers with the least education, the least wealth, the least resources, the least political power, the least influence, and the least social status. So if you like taking advantage of people with the least, the gig economy is for you.
That's true. But what I was saying about Airbnb where I live, I mean, now, you hear all the realtors say, well, don't worry about that. They're going to rip down your house anyway because they're just going to build a new one that's now 2,500 square feet larger than the last new one they built because they want to fit 20 people in here instead of 10 like they do, because then they can charge $8,000 a weekend to come up here and ski in a place that has almost no snow anymore.
Right. Or you can do things, and not to get into I'm no land use expert, but Boulder, Colorado is a famous example. The Portland metro area is a famous example, right? You put urban growth boundaries or city growth boundaries around, and you choose a limited area where the people already there can have their high value, and nobody else can get in because you made a tight little circle and made your own market where, if you cross that street, you can't build over there. You can only build here, and here's already built up. Sorry about that. So, our economy, far from being a market capitalistic economy, our economy is controlled by all types of use and regulation limitations. So, again, at least it's a physical world, and you can look on a map and see where the growth boundary is. If they didn't tell you where the growth boundary was and you just bought a house, and at the end of the house, they did just tell you, well, your house is either worth $1 million or $100,000. Let's flip the coin. And you're outside the boundary. Your house is worth $100,000. Congratulations. So that's like, if that's the gig economy. And that, by the way, is a real model, right? I mean, the funds that are spent on elections to decide whose former farmland is going to go skyrocket up 10,000% in value are highly contested.
Sure are. But what I was getting at is that we're closing. We don't have those kind of problems with that yet. We haven't developed. But there's just nothing here for anyone anymore that used to be a normal, town citizen.
Right.
We only had 1,200 people in my hometown as it is.
Right.
So, but now we have all these new houses. Weekends we blow up to 5,000 or 6,000 of renters. That money is just extracted right out and sent right to somewhere else, to the city, to an equity firm out in California that owns the new hotel.
Yep.
And it's the same way with the gig. You're just extracting more and more and more of that money out of those areas, crushing the average small restaurant, and then what replaces it? A McDonald's, maybe, if you're lucky.
And what is Airbnb? Airbnb is housed people providing housing for other housed people.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, so the people without houses, not without houses, like you go to bed, the people that don't have housing are shut out of markets where they used to be able to rent somebody's downstairs or whatever. But you can't do that anymore because now it's really cool to go stay in somebody's basement in the inner city. And so what used to be housing for low-income people is now housing for people that already have a house in Philadelphia and just want to visit Manhattan for the weekend.
That's
and
right.
So they can now rent the crazy, basement apartment. And it's quaint. It's quaint. It's really cool to, be in 400 square feet for a weekend.
That's right.
And so the sharing economy, while not exactly the gig economy, has the same elements of market pollution and market.
I've always found the sharing economy to be somewhat of a misnomer. Yeah. I mean, I think someone really missed the idea when you say you're sharing. I mean, sharing implies that I'm giving something to you for free. I'm not, charging. That sounds like the average renting economy.
You're sharing your personal wealth with the corporation called Airbnb, and it's the sharing economy.
Yeah, okay, maybe that's it. I'm sharing with them, but I'm not sharing.
I assume that's how they came up with the name. I don't know. I don't have an Airbnb.
Neither do I, but I mean,
I assume that's the correct history, though. Let's just go with that. That's how they came up with the name.
that direction at least makes sense.
Yes, the sharing economy. That's the gig economy is the sharing economy.
I'm
You're
sure it is.
sharing your car with DoorDash. Thank you. You're
For
sharing
free.
your roads with DoorDash. You're sharing your gas with DoorDash. You're sharing your life with DoorDash if you get killed by a distracted gig app driver who's looking down at their phone every 30 seconds distracted. That happens too.
Yeah. I mean, well,
there's a lot of sharing in the sharing economy and the gig economy. It's a very sharing place. You're sharing risk and loss, but you're sharing.
I was going to say, it's all the negative things that we seem to be sharing.
Yeah, it is all the negative things. It's all the negative.
It's all the, all the costs,
all the costs.
All the risk.
It's heaven for somebody and hell for somebody else. Take a guess.
I can see that. Yeah, I mean, it's Milton Friedman on steroids.
It's a lot of things. A lot of things, and it's unfathomable that it's here and functioning.
Well, it is
unfathomable. It's unfathomable. Just with what we've talked about in 2 hours, 14 minutes, and 48 seconds, I have explained to you the gig economy, and you're now going to have freaking nightmares about what this thing's going to do, because that's how bad it is. That's how bad it is that when you learn this rabbit hole, that it's not conspiracy, that's actually a rabbit hole of wealthy people and artificial intelligence using humans as expendable fuel. It's not a pretty sight. It's very, very sad.
I agree that it's sad, but I mean, but it also goes back to that old Milton Friedman thing, when every piece is commodified of a planet, right? I mean, that's what it is. I mean, I'm expecting Uber Air soon, right?
Right.
Here's your fresh air canister, kind of like in Spaceballs, where he has the Perrier,
right?
In the cans.
Well, theft protection on the bottles of water in the grocery store, like I saw yesterday at Kroger.
Really, I've never seen theft protection on water bottles.
I had not either. It was very impressive. A lady came and asked for help at the self checkout, because that's our gig too, right? We check out our own food.
Yes.
So we're now grocery checkers in addition to grocery shoppers. And a lady came up and she needed assistance. She had a liter-sized bottle of designer water with theft protection on it.
That's pretty sad.
Wild. It's got to be an apocalypse.
And considering how much Kroger Corporation has stolen from their employees in the last 2 years,
they're really awful. They're really racist too. They put all the products for the Black community. They put all the hair products and stuff like that. They do all kinds of theft protection and follow people around stores and stuff. It's really
I know. I lived in Kentucky for a while, and that was Kroger's are big there.
Yeah. But they acquired the major grocery chain of the Northwest called Fred Meyer, and so now.
Well, that means how is that even legal? I mean, that would give them almost 60% of the whole share.
Say again?
Doesn't that give them close to 60% of all grocers in the country then?
Oh, but then they were merging with Safeway and Albertsons. So that was the deal, is that there were towns that had a Fred Meyer, a Safeway, and an Albertsons that will all be owned by the same company. So that's an issue right now.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, every grocery store in an entire town, except maybe some small independent Hispanic grocery or something like that.
Well, that won't be around too much longer either.
A convenience store, yeah. So all your grocery chains are going to have the same. You're going to have the same food, and the same owner. So I mean, that's a great game to be able to play too, right? You can think about that. You can do dynamic pricing just like an app. You can make Safeway your premium brand and charge the most there.
It gets rid of that
collusion. Put Albertsons in the middle and charge second most there, and you can put Fred Meyer at the bottom and chase the Black people around and make the least there. I guess. I don't know. I'm a strategist. That's the strategy I could employ if
I'll tell you this. I mean, what really scares me about it is that, they always talk. Grocery stores have always been the ones that do the most collusion with their sales ads.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Now
price fixing is big.
Now you don't even have to
matching, electronic coupons, price guarantee.
Now you don't even have to deny it. Yeah, of course we're fixing the prices. We want this store to make more money. Yeah, we want this store to make more money on a Monday and this one to make more on a Wednesday.
Right. And there are laws in the physical world about price gouging. There's no law about price gouging in a gig app. You can gouge all you want. There is no law that said you couldn't put 100% commission fee on delivery if you wanted to. And there's no law that says you can't do zero, which is how they get new retailers to sucker in, right? They say zero delivery fees your first month. Well, take that offer because you're only going to be in business a month, so it's probably okay. But other than the special offer, it's not going to stay zero. It's not going to stay zero. That's the drug dealer just have a taste, baby. You'll love it.
That is the instant addiction.
Yes.
Plus, they'll probably
addiction.
Plus, they'll also probably the other beauty of it is that they can push more people with the app towards you during that free period, right?
So they
that gives you that
in their marketing. But if you look at grocery news and look at some of the industry trades, and they ask the actual merchants, is DoorDash and are these gig apps, Instacart, actually meeting their promises of increasing demand and sending incremental people to your store so that you're actually making more money even though you're paying commission? And the answer is most of them are saying, no, that's not the case. That we don't see the difference between our volume of business with these commission taking scams versus the volume of business we already had. And it just makes sense. So do gig apps invite new consumers that eat food that have never eaten food before? I mean, did they expand the pie of the food market? Are we all getting fatter, faster?
No.
Are we not? I mean, this makes no sense. They didn't innovate food or groceries or anything else. They just figured out how to take money out of the market that didn't exist before.
But they can manipulate the market for grocers. I mean, you can, have the coupon system. You can have all kinds of incentives to drive people towards that. But then again, why would you do that if you don't have to? I mean, that's what Grubhub has figured out.
I have a special deal for you, Connor. If you're an independent restaurateur, no credit check, I will give you up to $40,000 of money. No credit check, just a quick application. And you even get to pay me back monthly out of the commissions directly. You don't even have to touch the money. So they're literally getting into the loan sharking business. That is a phase that exists today, is a no credit application cash loan to small businesses trying to keep their head above water. So talk about owing your soul to the company store. You think you're the owner, you owe your soul to the company vendor for AI.
That's incredible.
I told you they're good, man. I have yet to figure out a scam or a ploy that they haven't used. And I'm pretty freaking creative. I am a really creative strategist. I can't imagine a way that I could take advantage of humanity or businesses that they haven't figured out.
They just put them all together, every one of them.
It's a panacea. It said it's the ultimate expression of the corporate psychopathy.
That's incredible. I mean, now they're in the loan business, but we figured they were going to get in the financial
loan
business.
Sharking business, a financing business. It's not even a loan. And I would love to see the
interest rate
of the ability for businesses to pay that back with their DoorDash revenues. I would love to see those statistics.
I don't see how you could do it.
I think it's a death knell. But look, a lot of people do shit to keep their nose above the waterline when they got to keep their nose above the waterline.
That's true.
And remember, corporate bankruptcy is a real thing. So I can see a small business person going, I'm going to lose my total investment. Let's go down in flames and run up the credit card. Let's take 40 grand from DoorDash. I mean, think of how insidious this is. This incentivizes illegal behavior from a customer side because they have corporate bankruptcy protection.
To some extent, but I mean, you can't
if
defraud people.
If I take $40,000 from DoorDash and go out of business a week later, they ain't going to get the money back.
Well, no, but they can. I mean, it all depends on how good how well you've been incorporated yourself. That's what I was getting at.
I would suppose that
I'm guessing that they're banking on is that most people haven't separated their assets far enough from each other legally, and then they're like, okay, right? I gave
Sole,
them 40.
sole proprietorships and things like that could certainly.
I lost my 40 grand. Okay, fine. But I got $1 million in land over here from this guy. The $500,000 house he built himself 10 years ago.
So here's more corporate compounding, and all you got to do is go out in the physical world. It's going to slap you in the face. So Dollar General is now going through a massive corporate scandal because they overprice things and illegally overcharge customers. So the local Dollar General, I have to stop there and get a couple cheap things I need every once in a while. And every single time, the last 5 times I've stopped there, like 3/4 of the stuff I rung out at least 25 cents high on each item, if not more, right? And so, but every time I go back, and so yesterday I go back and I get to there and said, look, it's gonna overcharge me again. This is $1.70. It's gonna charge me $1.95, and so the manager and the checker are both standing behind the counter, and she looks at him. He goes, well, go check the shelf price, and she goes, check. Well, that's $1.70. And he goes, and he puts his key in and he corrects it. And they said, this happens every time. And he looks at me and says, we don't have enough employees. So
you don't have enough employees.
We don't have enough employees. And so I go look on the internet, and this is a major scandal for Dollar General across the country, is that they're overpricing things. Now, that's one risk in the physical world. When you DoorDash at Dollar General, consumers do not see the shelf price.
Nope.
So if a consumer buys an item through the app at Dollar General at any given price, God knows what it could be. It could be $2.40. There is no way to know or check what the shelf price is, which might be $1.70. So not only is this a scam for Dollar General, but now DoorDash's commissions are going up because Dollar General's fraud.
So they're at least accessories after the fact.
Consumer losing money, you've got the labor losing money, and you've got 2 corporations committing fraud that are compounding each other. Like this is never before in the history of man could you fleece somebody so well on mispricing items on a menu or on a shelf. This is freaking financial innovation right here, man. And nobody has ever talked about this. There's no book out about this. There is this is why I was very excited to write this book, is because nobody's ever talked about this. But when you look at the corporate compounding of pricing fraud, we're talking billions of dollars of fraud here.
Yes, we are.
It's hideous. It's beyond imagination. It's great. I go back and forth between being totally impressed and horrified.
Well, you can't not be impressed. I mean, I understand that. I mean, the level at which they've built this system is impressive to say the least. And yet you can still be horrified at the same time. You can say, wow, the amount of hours and time and effort they put into this could have been used to so much better resources. And
their engineers are undoubtedly brilliant, man. I mean, log on to YouTube and listen to some tech talks from their data science engineers and AI engineers. It's brilliant stuff, man. You're going to learn a lot about humanity and AI and data science.
And but what I'm curious is, when it blows up, and it will, what are we going to be left with? What's the shell going to look like?
A smoking pile of rubble for an economy is my guess.
I mean, because it's everywhere. I mean, DoorDash is now giving, Grubhub and DoorDash have gotten out of just doing restaurant deliveries. They're now delivering everything.
Right. They're even doing package pickup from customers' individual dwellings and delivering it to another dwelling or a place. And Uber had problems with that in some state. They were using rideshare to move drugs. So as a DoorDasher, imagine going to a place, picking up a sealed package from somebody's house and trusting that it's not either dangerous or illegal and delivering it somewhere else. Now you tell me a system that is more available for some type of danger and or fraud than anonymous package pickup and delivery. Because again,
I can't think of
we're
one.
talking some brilliant machinations of product moving here. So
I can't think of one, to be honest.
I can't either. Like that, it is now. Sure, grandma may be sending cookies to the grandkids, but psychopath might also be sending a pipe bomb to his neighbor. You just don't know.
Might not even be his house where he tells you
And you
to pick
delivered
it.
it.
Yeah.
You delivered it. You're like, hey, I got something for you.
You know, I mean, you don't even know what you're picking up. I mean, all the guy has to do is has the application, gives you an address and a box outside.
And DoorDash, remember, they don't even know you. So they're certainly not going to give you any training, any advice, any safety or OSHA protection if this package is heavier than is comfortable for you or anything else. They're not going to be able to make sure that your car is appropriate to haul the size or configuration of the item. They're not going to be able, nobody's vouching for anything because your hero, a Japanese fictional professional aspiring bike racer, you're not Connor, you're not Jeff, you are not a human being. You are expendable human fuel, and you're picking up X and taking it to Y, and whatever happens to you in that scheme is not of DoorDash's concern. They don't know you. They don't know you.
That's another good question, right? We're talking about people trying to spend medical stuff through this potentially. You don't have any insurance for that. What if you're,
I mean,
that alone, you're not.
This is pretty good. I'm gonna have to use this in the book. Thank you. It's the local dark web.
Yeah, you're not even
local dark web. Oh, that's very poisonous. I like that.
You're not even insured for half the stuff you're going to be doing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So you get into a car accident.
You could be the local Glock delivery guy. You deliver pizza and a Glock.
I mean, I think that's going to be a very interesting situation for them.
They openly aspire to replace UPS and FedEx with last mile delivery. They openly aspire to this. This is not even. I mean, that's the hubris of these guys. Wow. They openly aspire to take over every locality's logistics at a mere, let's see, $21.40 out of $40. At a mere 57% of the gross sale, they're going to offer their logistics services everywhere.
Sounds like a bargain to me.
It really does. It really does.
I mean, who couldn't see themselves paying way more in shipping and handling every time?
So imagine if they told this story to the Y Combinator. I mean, they don't. So the Y Combinator is at Y Combinator, Tony Xu and Stanley Tang and Andy Fang talk about working for Domino's for 5 minutes and delivering pizzas, and how Tony Xu's parents were immigrants from China and his mom
had a
ran
restaurant
and he respects local business. So they sell this, psychopaths selling a homey story of homespun goodness. And in reality, if they told the story that you and I have, it's like, oh, here's a data science scheme to exploit humanity as human fuel. That would be an interesting proposition. I'm not sure it wouldn't be taken. I mean, it's freaking
Of course
brilliant.
It'd be taken. They'd be like, wait a minute, let me get this straight.
Good. That is good.
We're going to sell them that it's DoorDash for food, but we're really going to be exploiting them. I love it.
Well, when they got their rounds of hundreds of millions and billions of dollars financing, I bet they did tell this story. I'll bet you this story was told in the right boardroom, because that's how they got the hundreds of millions of dollars. They didn't get hundreds of million dollars because anybody's ever made profit from last mile delivery locally. They got hundreds of millions of dollars because they presented a really great new scam that humanity's not going to figure out until they're already addicted. What a deal. It's the new meth, but it's crystal blue. Just like Breaking Bad, crystal blue meth. It's the new thing.
And with that, I think we've pretty much covered everything.
God help us if we haven't.
Well, I'd like to thank you again, Jeff, for coming on. And that will be the end of our broadcast.